What's good, everybody? I'm your boy Jadiro. It's finally here. This is my review of the Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR. Let's go. And as a bonus, I'll be going over the Twisted Blade Rogue build. It still lives, it's still good, and it still works. So I want to let you guys know, after we go over the build summary of the Rogue, I'm going to go over all the pros and cons of all the content that I engaged with on the seasonal PTR. So first things first, of course, we're going to Blade Dancer's aspect. This makes twisting blades like an AoE effect, and it does increase damage after returning the blades to you. It's pretty sweet. The next aspect we're going over here is the Frostbitten aspect. So this allows our grenade skills, and we have a lot of grenade procs in this build. It gives us the ability to freeze our enemies, and we do increased damage to frozen enemies. So if we go over to our abilities here, if we scroll down, we got Frigid Finesse. This does increased damage to chilled enemies, and it increases that bonus to 30% when they're frozen. And the last fundamental aspect we're going here for the build is the Bursting Venoms aspect. What this does is it creates a pool under you, like a poison pool, and it gives us the chance to reset the cooldown on our poison imbuement. So the only reason I really went on this, or I went this aspect, is because it allows us to do a lot more single target damage. And as I said, guys, I put in a lot of grenade proc. So when we evade or shadow step, we get stun grenades and we get increased stun grenade damage with the aspect of surprise. Also here we have the aspect of the Artful Initiative. This will make us drop a stun grenade every time we spend 100% of our energy. And it also increases the damage to all our grenade skills. And then we have another one when we break stealth from our Concealment, which is an ability we're going. We also drop stun grenades, and we also have increased damage to grenade skills. As for the defensive aspects, guys, we're going the good old Juggernauts aspect, and this will give us a flat armor increase, which reduces the physical damage we take. Then I'm also trying this one out, so this increases the damage we deal to chilled enemies when they're already poisoned by Poison Imbuement. So this is kind of synergistic with the poison and the chilled aspect that we're going with the aspect of the Frostbite. Alright guys, so that's just a brief summary of the build. I really want to dive deeper into this once Season 4 comes out, but let's get into the review of the Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR. So guys, I'm really going to challenge myself here. I'm going to try and do a review while playing the game. I really just want to have some fun before the PTR is over. So I'll be talking about the pros and cons of the Helltide and what I experienced. Now the first thing I want to touch on here is the high density mobs that you experience while you're in the Helltide. Like, this had some of the highest packs of... This was actually the most fun I've had leveling in Diablo 4 ever. So I had a good time. If you guys want to go check, I have a live stream where I level up a Sorcerer. And this is where I had the most fun leveling up. There's not only a ton of other players playing, but this is where I believe is the highest density of mobs in the game. So it's really cool, and it's a lot of fun to play. Also, you have these objectives where you'll be getting a lot of mob density. That's what I keep going back to, because that's the reality. The mob density is incredible here. If anything was reworked really well, or there's something that really was the shining star of the Diablo 4 PTR, it definitely was the Helltide, at least for me. This is where I had the most fun and I put the most time into it. It actually made me want to come back and play the game even more. Like, every time I would stop playing, I'd go to bed and I'd be like, yo, I want to try and go back into that Helltide again and play it some more. So definitely a big plus. Again, it's non-stop action wherever you go on this map. You can't walk too far without being ambushed or surprised. Here we go, perfect example of an ambush, and you just get swarmed with enemies. This is perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of mob density. It's huge here, huge. And look at that. We also got a goblin. Sweet. And look at that, we got our first maxed out Uber Ancestral. So this is basically, I don't know if you guys remember from Diablo 3, but the Primal weapon, this is the Primal version. So it's an Ancestral 2. So, sweet. Now, one thing I want to mention here, as for the cons for the Helltide, is that sometimes it's really hard to see what's going on. Everything on the screen pretty much just looks red, especially in the higher density mob packs. So now I might be able to give a better example of that here. So let me start up the Hellspire. So, as you can see, not only can I barely see my guy, but everything is a saturated red. And from the flames coming out of the Hellspire to anything else on the ground, really, or anything else flying at you. Oh, kind of stuck here. I don't have an unstoppable proc. There we go. Yeah, anything on the ground, anything really coming at you, it's hard to see. Yeah, that's one thing I would change, because it's really hard to see. I really can't see what's going on with my character. And I hope they can change that. I don't want to say there's any cons without offering up a solution. So that would be my solution, is maybe help us, change the color of the enemy abilities, or maybe make it like blue fire or something like that, so there's some sort of contrast on the screen. because pretty much everything looks red, and as much as I love the mob density, half the time you can barely see your character, but I guess that's what it's all about. Alright guys, I had to get out of the Helltide. It's getting way too packed. I absolutely love it though. As you can see, like, I'm totally excited to play Helltide every time. Like, as soon as I'm done recording this video, I'm going to go back and play. But the only other con I would add to the Helltide, I'm probably going to say this about everything I review today, is we need a matchmaking tool. I was running the Helltide, playing and just doing live streams, and I really wish I had the ability to be in a group, because we're getting more experience not only when we're in a group, but it's way more fun to play with more players, because that mob density increases. Everything is multiplicative, right? So I really hope that Blizzard at one point, like Diablo 3, at some point that they can put a matchmaking tool in the game, like, you know, and you'll be able to select the category specifically for the pros and cons of Helltide. Yeah, for Helltide, that'd be cool matchmaking tool. I really hope they can implement that into the game at some point. Well guys, that's it for my pros and cons for the Helltide. Probably the best rework I've seen, and the best the Helltide's been since the game launched. Now you're probably asking yourself, Jajiro, you didn't even go over the abilities for the rogue. You went over all the aspects, but you didn't go over the ability. Well, I got you. So as for the skills, guys, we're going to go Puncture, and we're going to go the modifier that makes enemies vulnerable. Then, of course, we're going Twisting Blades, and we're doing the increased damage to Twisting Blades as the modifier. Then we're going Shadow Step, good old Shadow Step, don't leave home without it. Then we're also going Poison Trap. Now, I couldn't find something to fit in here. Again, I'm still going over this build. I tried Cold Imbuement, and I've tried Shadow Imbuement, and I've tried Death Trap, but for some reason, Poison Trap just kind of fits right in that sweet pocket. And then we're going Concealment as well. This is just pretty much our unstoppable proc, and I also have some passive skills invested so that when we go into stealth, we regenerate some health. And then, of course, we're going Poison Imbuement for some single target damage and increased damage. And as for the specializations, guys, you can go whatever you want, but I'm really having a lot of fun with the buffed Inner Sight right now. Just being able to spam Twisting Blades in a single target damage fight, I think is really going to help later in the game. Alright guys, so that's it for the rogue skills. Good thing I remembered. Let's go into the itemization next. So let's get the obvious out of the way for itemization for the pros. These are the pros for itemization I'm going to go over first. Is it's simplified, it's easy to read, and easy to understand. You literally know what you're going to get, and you know what kind of bang for your buck you're going to get every time you get an item. And the old joke of, like, you know, you get damage on Tuesdays and then you get crowd control resistance on Sundays. That joke is out the door now. We literally have a simplified version of every item. I'm throwing this under itemization as well. You might disagree, but I'm going to talk about tempering here. Now, this is going to add an additional uniqueness to your build. So I feel like in any ARPG or MMO, the one thing the player wants is to have some sort of identity with the character they're creating, or some sort of ingenuity of their own into the character that they're creating. And I feel like tempering does exactly that. It helps you make the build you want to go. Although it's random, we'll get into that later. It helps you make the build you want to go, and it also helps expand the build, and it makes it more interesting in the late game to try and mix and match different tempering affixes, whether it's weapons, offensive, defensive, utility, mobility, resource, whatever you're trying to temper into the weapon. I like the idea that it gives you a little bit more creativity in the game, and it also adds a certain uniqueness to every build that you're ever going to make. I'm a build enthusiast, so I absolutely love this. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is masterworking. Why I love this so much is because it adds a crazy buff to one of your affixes, first of all. And secondly, I like the fact that you'll be able to trade these items once you've masterworked them. So this is going to create an in-game economy of trading, which is going to add value back into the game, which might actually increase the player engagement from player to player. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you can't trade masterwork items, I'm pretty sure you can. I know you can't trade uniques, but I'm pretty sure you can trade legendaries. Let me know down in the comments if I'm incorrect, if you cannot trade legendary masterwork items. Again, I think this will be dope. Absolutely sick if you can trade these masterwork legendary items. That'd be so cool. It'll create a whole other grind to the game, which I think the game needs. Now I'm just going to rope this in here, guys. We're talking about the codex. It's just amazing that we don't have to take up our stash space or our inventory space anymore with these aspects that we're saving. We've already talked about this in length, but I want to say this is absolutely cool. This is probably one of my favorite things to do, again, especially being a build enthusiast. I love just being able to search up whatever kind of aspect I'm looking for and being able to apply that to the class or the build that I'm going. Another quality of life change I love about the itemization is I love the enchant item, how they simplified it to just cost gold, and that it'll have a cap, and it only costs 2 resources. You don't need like 4 different things to flip an enchant or to flip an affix and enchant your item. All right, guys. As for the cons for the itemization, I'm gonna get the obvious out the way once again. We need a loot filter. Blizzard, please. Just make our lives even more simpler in this game. Let us enjoy the game. Help us do some of the hard work, please. And guys, my only other con here is the tempering. This is something that might be personal or that people might disagree with, but I don't like the fact that I can't pick the tempering affix that I want. I do not like the fact that it's random, especially seeing as there's so many. I completely understand the masterworking where you're upgrading a random effect by 25%, but I really feel like it takes away from that building, that build uniqueness, especially like you see here. I tempered it and I got barrage on my dagger, which I don't need. I'm not going barrage. And even on my crossbow, I got rapid fire. So I really wish that maybe you guys get rid of the fact that it's random and maybe let us be able to pick the tempered affix that we want. Alright guys, that does it for the pros and cons of the itemization. I'm trying to stick to my little sheet here. This is going to keep me in order. And let's get into the next thing, the pit. Alright guys, so again, I'll be going over the pros and cons of the pit. And as an included bonus, I'll do a whole pit run for you with this rogue build. Stay tuned. Alright guys, here we are in the pit. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit more candidly again. So, first things first, guys, I really enjoyed the pit. Now, I believe that the pit is going to be the end game grind. Aside from what the seasonal content's going to offer, this is a lot of fun. I feel like this is like a little mini arcade version of Diablo 4. As we all know, it is the greater rifts from Diablo 3. I believe they even slipped up in the live stream and mentioned that it was. So, you know, it is what it is, and I no shame in the game if you're pulling back to old good ideas. You know, the greater rifts were some of the one of the best features about Diablo 3, right? So I thoroughly enjoy the rifts, and I enjoy clearing them, and this is some of the most fun I had. But I'm gonna get back on track here. I believe that this will be the end game grind, especially after World Tier 4 when you're trying to push from like level 70 to 100. Now I know the mobs start at level 100, so it might be a little bit more difficult. You might be close to level 80 or 90 before you actually jump into one of these. But in World Tier 4, this opens up for you. So I guess it depends on how strong your build is and how tanky your class is, right? So there's a lot of good things to come from it, I'm sure. And this is something I had a lot of fun doing too. This kind of reminds me of the vaults in a sense. Like from Season 3, that's all I did was I just did the vaults, and that's how I pushed through the game. But again, I'm thoroughly enjoying this game, man. I've had so much fun, not only just playing the pit, but the Helltides and everything that the PTR had to offer, really. But I also like this because the pit, I feel like, is a good way to test builds. Again, I'm a build enthusiast. I love making guides and builds for everyone and trying to help people and whatnot. I feel like this is a great way to take your build and limit test it. And by limit test it, I mean you'll see if it's good or if it's strong. You can push higher ranks, and as you're pushing higher ranks, you could see how strong and your build actually is. I also feel like it's easy to jump out and maybe switch up a couple things, jump back in, so it's pretty fluid and easy to access. And not only that, it's a whole lot of fun. Like these are things that make me want to, like, you know, after I wake up in the morning and I'm like, you know, of course, I want to play the game some more, and I just like that they added more content in the game, and the pit is definitely really cool. I guess I can go over the cons at the same time. Again, one thing I think that they can add to this is a matchmaking system. You know, I don't know if this is intended to be single player only, but I think that would be pretty cool if you were able to push like the greater rifts with additional people. Now, I think that'd be cool, man. I think in a game that is a multiplayer game, you should support it by being able to team up with people. And I understand some people don't want to team up with people, but I enjoy it because they have it in the game that if you're in a party, you have increased experience. So I don't see how it can hurt to have maybe a tool that allows you to matchmake into, you know, the Helltide or the pit. So I really hope that they can add something like that to the game. That'd be cool. Another thing I wanted to talk about, I'll talk about a little bit later. Let me see if I can glance down at my notes here real quick. Oh yeah, so basically, I went over basically everything. I'll talk about something once I get closer to the boss and at the end of this. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun just playing this. It's a great throwback to Diablo 3. Guys, let me know. Again, I asked this in a different video, but let me know what was your favorite thing if you played. Question of the video: what is your favorite Diablo? Whether it be Diablo, Diablo 1, 2, 3, or 4, let me know down in the comments. But once we get to the boss, I'll show you guys. I'll talk more about one of the cons I want to talk about here, and I have a solution that might help. I don't know who will see this video, but you know, one can hope, right? I'm actually surprising that this build's actually doing pretty good. Like it is T-Blade, and it is a Twisting Blades build, and they did nerf it into the ground, so this is just like a very premature version of the build. So I can't wait to dive into this in Season 4 and really flesh this out. But let's go to the boss fight here, and then I'll explain something. So, but as you can see, like with the grenade damage and the poison imbue, like, you know, you're still doing a lot of damage, which is pretty sweet. And with preparation, when it pops, actually, well, not so much in this one because he spawns minions, but if preparation was popped, you would have unlimited energy and you'd just be spamming your twisting blades. But the single target damage on this build is actually excellent. Okay, here we are. So this is the con I wanted to talk about here, guys. See how it drops? It drops rares, right? So I get that you need the rares and the yellows to disenchant to get the veiled crystal. But what I was going to suggest, instead of dropping the rares and having us, you know, have to go back and salvage it with one button, why don't you just drop the mats itself? Why don't you just drop the veiled crystal on the ground and we pick it up as mats? Like, I don't think anyone at level 100 is going to be needing that. So I hear a case where you might want to drop these if someone's like level 80 or 90 and they're trying to push to level 100 and you want to drop these rares. But at the same time, they come with one less affix than the legendary. So my suggestion would be either just drop the mats that the veiled crystals that the rares give us, or just drop more legendaries, or maybe more tempered manuals, or, you know, whether that's rare or legendary. I think that would be a good fix for this solution, a good solution to this. I really don't see any point to having this when you're pushing 100, really, because everyone's going to be shooting for ancestrals, right? So yeah, that's my only last con for the pit. Hope you enjoy. Guys, one more thing I want to talk about here is the boss ladder system. I'm going to be straight up honest. I didn't have the opportunity to figure it out or dive into it, so I will have no comment on that. If you guys know more about the boss ladder system, that was just another end game grind that I wasn't able to achieve, and I'm sure it's awesome. I just didn't have the pleasure of doing it, so I can't really comment on something that I didn't experience. Now, guys, I want to talk about the leveling experience here really quickly. I did do the leveling experience. I did a live stream where I went 6.5 hours. I got to World Tier 4, and I was able to push into World Tier 4 with a Sork. Now, I wanted to say I had the most fun doing that, and that was an enjoyable experience. And that's even without knowing what the seasonal content will have to offer. So I can't imagine what else I'll be doing. But the Helltides is awesome. The Pit's awesome. That was pretty much what I did the whole time until I got to level 58, and I was able to push the capstone at level 58. But yeah, the leveling experience was absolutely great. Another pro to leveling experience too is that the Eternal Realm players will have this forever. They'll always have the Pit, they'll have the Helltide, and they'll have the boss ladder. So even if they don't choose to play this season, they'll still have all this new content on the Eternal Realm. My only cons are, guys, again, a matchmaking tool. Put us in a team. You know, we get increased experience. You know, I'm sure the loot's higher too when we're in a team. So I think if Blizzard can, they should definitely put a matchmaking tool like they did in Diablo 3 into Diablo 4. The only other con I'm thinking is, this is more of a personal worry than a con. I just hope that I'm not jaded to the seasonal content that's going to be released. Like, I hope it's not worse than what we got now, you know, like there'd be nothing, that'd be the worst case scenario, that we have all this cool new end game, all this cool grind and end game features, and the seasonal content is just not, it's not up to par. So I really hope that they knock it out of the park when it comes to the seasonal content. All right, guys, here's a brief summary of the review of this video, guys. I just want to say this is the best state that Diablo 4 has been in since launch. And I genuinely had such a good experience on the PTR. Like, I really hope that the Blizzard devs or whoever's in charge let us experience this again before May. Or if they can, that would be awesome. I'd really love to see a PTR comeback that's tweaked. There's a lot of things I hope that they don't nerf. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. I come from being able to invest into this game as much as I can, and I really had a great experience, and this is the best the game's been since launch. From the reworked itemization concerning the affixes, to the reworked codex, to have all our aspects allocated to one spot instead of putting into our bags, to the reworked Helltide, to the addition of the Pit or the Greater Rift, whatever you want to call it. Those were all amazing experiences on the PTR. Now, the only cons I could talk about here, this is more so of a wish list as opposed to cons. I really hope they do add the matchmaking tool. Whether that be, you know, that's something I feel in my heart would be a good addition to the game. Whether that's whether that's Helltide, Pit, you know, the ladder system for the boss, the boss ladder, that would be awesome. And speaking on the ladders, I think they need to add ladders to the pit. I think having a pit ladder system would be awesome. That would not only increase the competitive nature of Diablo 4, but I think it will also give us something more to do. And I think that's what everyone's looking for in this game, right? Everyone's going to hit level 100 and we're going to want to do more things in the game. So I feel like adding more ladder systems. As for my wish list, I really hope that in some way, in some capacity, that they dive into the PvP. I would suggest maybe doing PvP gear and PvP affixes to balance it. Now I know that will add a whole other ball of wax to this game, and I know this game is on the come up and it's doing its best to be the Diablo 4 we expected it to be. But I think that's on my wish list as one of the things I want to see going down in the future. Guys, my final verdict here for Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR is W, man. Big W's, man. This is a big win for Diablo 4. The devs of Diablo 4, they really stepped up the game. I really feel like this is something promising. My hopes are high once again. Here we go, right? So I hope that this will only get better once the actual season gets released. I really hope we're not getting spoiled here and it isn't smoke and mirrors with being able to be boosted to level 100 and be able to just experience the end game, and that the mid game and the early game aren't as fun. I can talk from experience. I leveled a character from level 1 to level 58 to get to world tier 4, and I didn't use any kind of shortcuts by using affixes that were already in the codex. I literally only used whatever legendaries I was able to pick up, and I had a blast just playing the Helltides, pretty much just the Helltides all the way into world tier 4. Guys, I want to reiterate here and I want to double down on the fact that this was an absolute W for Diablo 4. This was huge. I'm only repeating myself because I really feel like I had a thorough engagement with what they had to offer outside of the boss ladder, and I had an amazing time. So I'm really looking forward to playing Season 4 and making more builds and trying out different classes I've never tried before and trying out different builds. I'm really looking forward to all that. I can't wait to see what they have to offer in Season 4. Guys, before I go here, don't worry about liking and subscribing. I always say that. If you guys simply just enjoyed the video or brought you any kind of value, that's all I could ask for. Thank you, guys. Well, that does it for me, guys. I'll see you on the next one. I'm your boy Jadiro. Sign out for now. Peace.